welcome to Business Incorporated. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwabu. On the show today, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa says Africa is weeks away from coronavirus storm. And United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization warns global food crisis looms as coronavirus forces farms to stay idle and countries hoard supplies. Plus, Angola to cut budget as fifth year of recession looms large. We begin the show with intraday market numbers, and here in Africa, most markets began the week in the negative territory, except for South Africa's JSE index, which are at 0.76%. In Nigeria, the main index shared 0.62% due to losses from the banking sector. Egypt's EGX 30 lost 2.42%, while Kenya closed positive on Friday. In the Middle East, major Gulf markets traded negative, with UAE stocks taking the heaviest hit. Abu Dhabi's index shaved off 3.47%, while Dubai's main index lost 2.33%. Elsewhere in the region, the Qatari index declined 1.76%, while Saudi's index was down 0.05%. And in the UK, shares slipped this morning as another wave of stimulus measures failed to calm investors worried by the possibility of a prolonged coronavirus-led shutdown in Britain. My colleague there, Juliana Olainka, is standing by to tell us more. Good afternoon, Juliana. Well, the FTSE 100 was down 33 points earlier today. Bring us up to speed with the intraday numbers. What are the markets saying at the moment, especially with the lockdown?
Good afternoon, Chimeze. Well, the FTSE 100 has shed half of its losses from early trading. It seemed to be the oil majors that really kind of pushed the FTSE into triple-digit losses. Brent crude oil was trading at about $23 per barrel, which is a 17-year low. At intraday, the FTSE all shares down 1.17%, the FTSE 100 down 0.87%, and the FTSE 250 is down 3.36%. In currencies, the pound is down on the dollar by 0.35%, up on the euro by 0.25%, and down on the Japanese yen by 0.39%. So the FTSE not as bad as it was in early trading. It's worth pointing out that we have had some quite good data from the housing market showing that mortgage approvals in February rose to 73,546, and that was up from January 71,000, and it's way above the forecast of 68,500. For those in property, it's kind of bittersweet because, of course, this is before the COVID-19 shutdown, and really it shows before this whole coronavirus pandemic that there was, some positivity being boosted in the housing market. But of course, alas, that's short-lived, and we're expecting to see them dramatically drop when the results of March come out in a couple of weeks.
Now, EasyJet has grounded its entire fleet of planes due to unprecedented travel restrictions. How has the airline been able to deal with this present situation so far?
Well, as we all know, Chimeze, the airline stocks have really suffered dramatically over the past couple of months, particularly those in the UK. Of course, we know that most countries across the world, more than 90%, have shut their borders in some way, shape or form. And EasyJet were really struggling. They spoke with Unite. Unite are a massive union that look after a lot of airline and cabin crew. And their 9,000 staff have agreed some sort of bailout, which the government will be overseeing. A couple of weeks ago, the Chancellor of the Exchequer did say that they would try and guarantee at least 80% of your pay to the tune of £2,500. It would be capped at £2,500. So all 9,000 crew that work with EasyJet will be on this government scheme. But it hasn't come without its controversy. And now just last week, EasyJet paid out a dividend to their shareholders of over £170 million. And their billionaire boss, Stelios, who's a pretty popular name here in the UK. He received over £60 million. The story is just building up some steam at the moment, but a lot of people are going to be very unhappy with this because, of course, we know that the FCA and Andrew Bailey, the new governor of the Bank of England, did advise that companies do not pay out their dividend at this time. And, you know, wealthy CEOs should avoid taking big bonuses. And that's exactly what EasyJet have done. But I suppose the fact that 9,000 staff will be receiving at least some of their pay will soften the blow. But nevertheless, we are hearing these stories more and more that when it's a time of financial crisis, that these big bosses are still taking their big paychecks.
Let's continue to keep a tab on that. In the meantime, supermarket giant Morrison's has announced it will distribute about £10 million worth of groceries to food banks and raise purchase limits on items from 3 items to 4 items. How is this being received?
Well, this is a really great story, especially from Morrison's. They are one of the big 4 supermarkets, but definitely in the lower of the big 4. They have announced that they'll be giving food banks about £10 million worth of groceries, and that's really important because over the past couple of years, food banks have become a real source of help for many families that have struggled with salaries and struggles with food. But food banks, since this COVID-19 crisis has become a huge issue, have had to close. Also, as well, staff trying to practice social distancing just haven't been able to open them. So they, as well as Lidl, the German grocer, and Cooperative, they have pledged to give the support with these groceries, as well as Morrison's also stopping people from buying a certain amount of food because we've seen so much stockpiling. Certain supermarkets were telling people that you could only buy a certain amount of long life products. So, for example, pasta, a lot of people were piling up with that. Now, Morrison's have stopped people from only being able to purchase 2 or 3 because they found that many people who are buying are actually buying to give to these food banks. So, yes, this is a fantastic story. So especially the families that are really struggling at this time will be able to get the food and the supplies that they so desperately need.
All right, Juliana, let's continue to keep a track on those developments while keeping safe from COVID-19. Enjoy the rest of the day.